For more on this, I'm now joined by the country's Finance Minister, George Papaconstantinou. A very good morning to you, sir. Thank you for joining us. Is it helpful for people like Jürgen Stark to go around talking about the risk of default? He's obviously trying to give clarity to the markets, but it seems he's spooking them instead.
Well, frankly, we don't need that clarification. We don't expect to be bailed out by anybody. As is, I think it's perfectly clear, we're doing what needs to be done to bring the deficit down and control the public debt. Yesterday, we announced an acceleration of the fiscal and consolidation program. We will bring the deficit down below 3% 1 year earlier than what previously envisaged, meaning by 2012.
Have you had any talks with the EU or other governments about financial aid for Greece?
No, absolutely not. There is no such talk. There is no plan B. Greece will do what it takes on its own devices by reducing expenditure, increasing tax revenues, broadening the tax base. We've put in motion a complete overhaul of the tax system. We're going ahead with a number of structural reforms. There will be no need of any kind of outside help.
We can see that Greece's bonds have stabilized somewhat since the budget was passed on December 24th. Is the worst over now? Do you think you actually are able now to convince investors that you are committed to your goals?
Well, I think the markets will be looking at us very carefully over the next few months to see whether what is indeed a very voluntaristic budget with a 4 percentage point decrease in deficit in 2010 will indeed prove to be true. They will be looking at our revenue receipts. They will be looking at the legislation passed for the new tax system. They will be looking at expenditure cuts. And hopefully what they will be seeing will be reassuring them that indeed we are moving in the right direction, and they should continue funding our large debt.
But you haven't told investors, maybe you're going to tell your EU colleagues today, the exact date of your announcement for your austerity package. Can you give us some more details?
Well, 2010 will see a 4 percentage point drop in the deficit, followed by 3 percentages every year after that, until we go below 3% in 2012. This is mostly through permanent measures and not one-off measures, and it is equally, if you will, balanced between expenditure cuts and revenue increases. And it's underpinned by a series of reforms which are already underway, the most important of which are the tax reform and the reform in the budgeting process.
So what exactly are you going to tell your EU colleagues today?
We will be explaining to them the structure and the content of the Stability and Growth Program, which we are drafting. We will be explaining the specific measures we're going to be taking, the timetable, the horizon, the legislative acts, the actual monetary translation of these measures, and hopefully we will be convincing them that what is in place is a very carefully thought through and consistent plan that will reassure everyone that we are doing what needs to be done.
Let me ask you about more debt placement. We hear that Greece is mulling another private placement, similar to the one you've done in December. Can you give us some more idea about that?
Well, our borrowing requirements for 2010 are in the region of 54 billion. They're about 13 billion less than last year, with a peak in the second quarter of the year. We're exploring all possibilities, anything from normal bond issues to private placements, commercial paper. Everything will be used. We will move very carefully, looking at the conditions in the markets. It's good to see that after yesterday's announcement, spreads actually went down. So it's a strategy that unfolds depending on the conditions of the market.
Minister, another placement with private banks in your own country, wouldn't that be a sign that's the only place you can actually get some financing from? Are other banks abroad interested as well?
Absolutely. Let me reassure you that there is a lot of interest from foreign banks for private placements as well.
Minister, thank you so much for your time. George Papaconstantinou, their Finance Minister of Greece.